Good morning, TOK. Welcome to class number 6. Today we're going to be talking about the TOK diagram and start using our green eggs and ham workbook. So, what do you know? For this lesson, I'm going to assume that you have a pen or pencil and your copy of the Green Eggs and Ham book in front of you. Now, if you do not have the book in front of you, you can put this on notebook paper and transfer it later, or you can simply pay careful attention and annotate your book from this video at a later date. I am going to recommend, however, that you keep up with the annotations, as it is very difficult to go back at a later date and try and capture all of the information. Also, writing it in the book does help you learn the material. So good morning. I apologize that you're getting this a day late. Been running into some issues with copyright claims against my videos because I'm including material from books, from films, and so on. I'm winning all of the challenges, but obviously I need to get these done farther in advance so that I have time to resolve the copyright strikes. This is primarily because I've chosen to use YouTube to distribute these videos. The downside is that I have to keep going through this nonsense. The upside is that because they're posted on YouTube, you should be able to access them from anywhere on any kind of device. Today we're going to focus on the introduction to the TOK diagram. Now, we talked about the diagram previously with the knower, the ways of knowing, and the areas of knowledge. But we're really going to break down the relationship among those elements and a practical demonstration of the knowing process using our workbooks. Oh, before we begin, please do make sure that you put your name and some kind of contact information, a phone number, an email, something, inside your books. If you become separated from your book, which is certainly possible over the next 12 months, you're going to run into the issue of having to either recreate all this material or track your book down. So much easier to do when everybody's name is in their book. So you should have your copy of Green Eggs and Ham. Yours is currently unannotated, but when we're all finished, you have a complete TOK annotated edition. These are rare and unique. Each one is individual, and yours will be created during the duration of this course. I want you to open it up. Inside front cover. One of the reasons I chose this text is, as you'll look through, you'll notice there are lots of pages that are either blank or mostly blank, giving us lots of room. Inside that front piece, you should be looking at a blank interior front cover. This is where we want our TOK diagram to go. Now, in the in your, I get so excited, I need to calm down. To the right, you should see the TOK diagram. I want you to copy this pretty good size onto that inside cover so that you can quickly glance at it whenever you need to refresh your memory about the relationship of the various elements. The center of the TOK diagram is the knower bracket knowers. We differentiate between knowledge that is possessed by an individual and communal knowledge. Outside the ring of the knower, we have the ways of knowing. In no particular order: language, imagination, emotion, intuition, reason, faith, sense perception, and memory. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over the diagram quickly. You'll have the option to pause the video while you get all of this copied, and then we'll move on. Outside the ways of knowing, we have the areas of knowledge, and please make sure you do label your diagram. In the areas of knowledge, ethics, history, mathematics, arts, natural science, human science, religious knowledge systems, and indigenous knowledge systems. Now, there is some question about how we list the ways of knowing in the areas of knowledge. Things that go to the front of the list tend to be considered more important. Things at the bottom of the list are less important. It's not alphabetical. It's not in any particular format. I just like to use some consistency, so I go off the copy of the diagram I used. This diagram was revised in 2015 in response to feedback from teachers and students in the IB program. They've made some changes to what they consider to be the areas of knowledge and the ways of knowing. And in fact, the diagram is going to be de-emphasized in the future as they move towards a focus on the knower, and they look at the ways of knowing and areas of knowledge as being just one possible way to interpret that information. But we're going to go with the diagram we've been given that also matches the assessment criteria and the rubrics that we have for this year. Okay, so I've hoped that you've had a chance to complete the TOK diagram and we're ready to move on. Again, if at any point you need to just pause this video, by all means do so, but the annotations until the end shouldn't come too quickly. I'm going to talk and explain and reference some things while you guys have a chance to write. Here on the very first page, we see our first character. This is a knower, and you should label him as such. And he is making what's called a knowledge claim. A knowledge claim is anything that you put forward as an assertion or a statement of belief. It is a claim to knowledge. And his knowledge, in this case, is that I am Sam. So, little guy with the red hat is Sam, better known as Sam I Am. And you can see he's riding on some kind of little critter. The little critter has a collar. He's standing on its butt while it flies through the air. There is a surreal element to this. Some of these things, the more you think about them, the more uncomfortable it becomes. But we've got Sam, and he is a knower making a knowledge claim. And here's where the action starts to heat up. We now have our rather sad, serious-looking gentleman in the black hat. He's never named anywhere in the text. In fact, it's been a point of some debate and discussion among my TOK students over the years as to who this fellow is. For convenience sake, and we need something consistent to call this man, for historical reasons that are way too involved and frankly not really worth going into here. In my class, he has traditionally been called the conductor. Again, don't even ask. So the conductor, you'll notice, is sitting here with a newspaper or magazine. He is also a knower. And if you were to think about it, looking at a newspaper, he is using language as his way of knowing. But what we're interested in here is the action. As Sam runs through on his critter, the conductor has sense perception. He sees Sam, he sees the critter, he sees them run through. This is direct observational knowledge, or sense perception. And here's where the action starts to heat up. We now have our rather sad, serious-looking gentleman in the black hat. He's never named anywhere in the text. In fact, it's been a point of some debate and discussion among my TOK students over the years as to who this fellow is. For convenience sake, and we need something consistent to call this man, for historical reasons that are way too involved and frankly not really worth going into here, in my class he has traditionally been called the conductor. Again, don't even ask. So the conductor, you'll notice, is sitting here with a newspaper or magazine. He is also a knower. And if you were to think about it, looking at a newspaper, he is using language as his way of knowing. But what we're interested in here is the action. As Sam runs through on his critter, the conductor has sense perception. He sees Sam, he sees the critter, he sees them run through. This is direct observational knowledge or sense perception. So here in this panel, we see the conductor making his knowledge claim, that Sam I am, that Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. This is an assertion of belief. A belief is anything proposed, asserted, purported, put forward as knowledge. The difference between belief and knowledge, between what I believe and what I know, and this is an important distinction, is beliefs have not been subjected to rigorous analysis, to critical thought. They can be hasty. They can be mistaken. This is an example here. I do not like that Sam I am. I doubt he's thought about it a whole lot, but you can see he's shaking his fists. He dropped his papers. So there's evidence that the belief is strong, but it hasn't yet been certified as knowledge. We would not call this knowledge. We would call it a knowledge claim. So in our next panel, Sam I am has returned, and he asks a question. Do you like green eggs and ham? This question seems unimportant. It seems trivial, but it represents one of the basic units of theory of knowledge, one of the basic components, one of the most fundamental things that we do. Do you like green eggs and ham is an inquiry. An inquiry is a question or investigation designed to explore knowledge. They used to call these problems of knowledge, but that's just a fancy way of saying things we're not sure that we know yet. I will occasionally use the phrasing problems of knowledge, but I wouldn't obsess over it. The main reason I'm asking you to include it in your vocabulary here is simply to catch my reference. A problem of knowledge is anything that results from the process that starts with an inquiry. Just as an inquiry is one of the most basic pieces of the process of theory of knowledge, what the conductor does here is another critical piece. He makes an assertion. An assertion is a formal way of saying putting forward a belief, putting forward a knowledge claim. His assertion in this case is, I do not like them. I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Now, if you're asking, how does he know this? What is his way of knowing? Take a look at the conductor. Hand up, eyes closed. No sense perception here. He's literally blind to the suggestion. Talk to the hand, okay? He is emotionally rejecting the possibility that he might like green eggs and ham. He is basing this entirely off of an emotional response. And this is important because emotion is a valuable way of creating knowledge statements. Our beliefs are often informed by emotion. Some people say, oh, well, you're just not being emotional. Well, that's like, stop being human. Emotions are part of what we do. And in fact, they're a useful part because we don't have the intellectual or temporal capacity to analyze every single thing that comes our way. Our emotions are ways to quickly take our prior knowledge, our sense perception, our intuition, our faith, all of our other ways of knowing, and to put them into one quick response process. Emotion is what you know before you know, and that makes it a way of knowing. Um, it's strange, but there are lots of times when your first and most emotional raw reaction is the correct one. Be careful not to uh, to slight someone's knowledge claims or beliefs because they're emotionally based. Now, if they only have emotion behind them, then there are some opportunities for discussion. There's some room for understanding your emotional response will be different from mine and vice versa. Um, so that not all emotional knowledge might be universal. But that doesn't mean you can just say, well, I asked him to go to the game with me, and he said he hates games, he hates football, he hates sports. He was just being emotional. Well, if those were his emotions, those were his emotions. So Sam I am isn't in any way deterred by this response, this emotional no. He instead gives a follow up inquiry. Sam I am is using reason, and having determined that the initial response, do you like green eggs and ham, the response was no, he asks a series of conditionals. Most of the book from here on out is a series of conditionals. Sam is exploring under what possible conditions would the conductor admit to enjoying green eggs and ham. In this case, he says, would you like them here or there? He's trying to narrow down from a undefined no, a specific conditional no. No, not under these circumstances, not under those circumstances, but perhaps under some other as yet unascertained circumstance, I may in fact like green eggs and ham. Now, the conductor here offers some evidence. He offers some justification for his belief. A justification is an attempt to prove the validity of a claim. It's basically evidence. He says, I would not like them here or there. He's rejecting the conditional. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. But you'll notice again, eyes closed, talk to the hand. He's literally distancing himself from this knowledge problem, from this inquiry. And this could be faith. He could have a deep, abiding personal belief that he doesn't like green eggs and ham. But in the absence of evidence and without any formalized belief system backing him up, it's probably more accurate to say the conductor is using intuition. He looks at the green eggs and ham, he quickly makes an emotional decision, no, not for me. And he intuitively makes the claim that there are no circumstances under which he would like the green eggs and ham. I do not like them, he repeats his claim. So, so Sam I am, he's always positive. He's a very um, certain, self-centered, not self-centered in a bad way, but self-contained. He doesn't need external validation. But he experiences here a moment of doubt. Uh, Doubt is an important concept in TOK because it can be both positive and negative. We tend to think of doubt as being negative. Oh, I'm starting to have my doubts. Well, I doubt that's true. People use it in a negative way, but doubt can be important. Anyone who's ever realized that someone was lying to them beforehand rather than after, before they got in trouble or before they invested or committed in some way to an enterprise or to a purchase. Doubt can serve you well. It's an important part of our critical thinking. Um, but Sam I Am simply doubts that the conductor has considered all the conditionals. So he throws some more out there. Would you like them in a house? Would you like them with a mouse? Now, the conductor here is still expressing himself emotionally. And again, that emotion is anger. But you'll notice he's turning back to Sam I Am. He's looking at him. He's being more, even as he walks away, he's more engaging. He says, I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I Am. He says this with a note of certainty. Certainty means overcoming reasonable doubt. Certainty isn't the same as proven. You can be certain of something and be dead wrong. I was certain that I was going to be a professional stage actor my entire life. And after 10 years, I was ready to do something else. I still miss it, it's still a part of who I am, but that early certainty was unfounded. But did I have any significant doubt at that time that I was going to be a stage actor? No, I didn't. I had certainty. The conductor here is certain that he does not like green eggs and ham. Now, Sam I Am is doing something very clever here. Would you eat them in a box? Would you eat them with a fox? Now, these are simply further conditionals, but he's literally reframed the question. He's changing the perspective of inquiry. Can you picture yourself under these circumstances? He's introducing a more sophisticated hypothetical, not just changing the location, not just changing the companionship, but literally asking, put yourself into this situation. He's trying to engage empathy. The empathetic response is an emotional response. So he's speaking to the conductor in a learning language that the conductor has demonstrated, emotion. And changing that perspective of inquiry could possibly yield some results. If you look at the conductor's face, he's still skeptical. He doesn't look convinced at all, but he no longer looks as angry. So, at least temporarily, Sam I Am has found a possible avenue of investigation. Now, despite the fact, despite the fact that I just said that Sam I Am might be onto something, we now regress. The conductor again displays anger, not in a box, not with a fox, not in a house, not with a mouse. Notice he's not rejecting the specific language anymore. He's just saying not, no, 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 no. This is dismissal. Dismissal is not just a disagreement. It's a disagreement as to the possibility of agreement. A dismissal is a way of signaling that the argument is over. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I would not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I Am. Again, the belief statement, I do not like them, comes last, but he's issuing a series of dismissals and disagreements. I also want you to notice that although he is storming off and he's raised his fist, his eyes are open. He's no longer blind to the situation. Now, Sam I Am tries something interesting here. He goes from his series of conditionals uh, to a more specific form of inquiry. Would you, could you, in a car, eat them, here they are. He's giving a conditional in the car, but he's he's adding the instruction to attempt to try to change the experience. This is an experiment. Experiments often go with reason as a way of using reason and sense perception to combine to create or reaffirm knowledge. The conductor, looking somewhat alarmed at this point, understandable, says, I would not, could not in a car. Notice he doesn't say that he won't. He doesn't just say I would not, right? I could not. It's impossible that I could do that. He doesn't believe that there's any way that he could do this thing. This is what's known as orthodoxy. Orthodoxy literally means right belief. You may have seen a number of churches that have the name Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, Orthodox Judaism. Orthodox simply means having the correct belief. The implication being that other churches with similar names have in some way the incorrect belief. But this isn't just used in churches. People talk about political orthodoxy. If you were a Republican who believed in small government, low taxes, free trade, and you also believed in protecting the constitutional interpretation of a woman's right to choose. You were pro-choice. This would be, for many, an unorthodox position for a Republican. Conservatives in this country have largely gathered around the pro-life position as opposed to the pro-choice. We'll talk another day about those two bits of verbiage. I don't want to start an argument about choice and life in this course. We have far too many things that we can discuss now. We're not likely to change anyone's minds on those issues, and it's easy to accidentally attack someone's deeply held personal beliefs or to trigger someone's emotional experience on that subject. It can be fun, however, just in your own mind, just in the privacy of your own thoughts. Try labeling those two positions anti-choice or anti-life. So, are you against choice or are you against life? Well, neither. Well, are you pro-choice or pro-life? Well, both. Language is funny that way. So, we have here orthodoxy. The conductor shows orthodoxy when he says he could not. It is not possible that he would have that belief. Sam I.M. does something very interesting here. He says, you may like them. You will see. You may like them in a tree. Notice there's two different states there. You may means it is possible. You will, it's not guaranteed, but it's probable. He's engaging in the area of knowledge known as mathematics through the way of knowing of reasoning, and he's essentially making the argument that because it is possible, if he keeps trying these possibilities, he will run into one which is probable, which is likely to be true. So now we get into the critical meat of our discussion. Notice the conductor has turned. He is directly engaging in this knowing process, in this exploration of knowledge. He is face to face with Sam I.M. And he says, I would not, could not in a tree, not in a car, you let me be. This is a defense of belief. It's very difficult when someone is investigating or exploring your belief to not feel that they are attacking your belief and by extension attacking you. They're taking something that you have claimed as knowledge You have put forward as a belief, you have asserted, and they're saying, no, here's where you're wrong, or have you considered that you may be incorrect, or well, if only you had experienced X, Y, or Z, you would agree with me. It's very difficult to disengage your emotions from that. It's very difficult to not feel belittled, disrespected, or even attacked. Um, he then uses one of the great weapons of defensive belief. I say great not in that it usually works, but it is just an all-time classic. Uh, the conductor states emphatically, with great emotion and great clearness, I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. This is what's called a categorical denial. The categorical denial, it's similar to a dismissive response. It's basically, categorical denial is the assertion that there is no condition under which the thing under discussion is true or not true. Categorical denial is there. You can stop asking me all these questions because there's no possible question you can ask where my answer is going to change. The categorical denial is a shutdown move. This is the no, I won't go with you to the prom. No, I won't go with you to the prom, even if we go with our friends. No, I wouldn't go if you had asked me 6 months ago. No, I wouldn't go if you were the last person on earth. There is no, let me make this very clear, no, N-O, nada, niet, nicho. There is no possible combination of circumstances in any of the myriad multiverses under which I would go with you. Have a nice day. Oh my. So, for those of you who were, pardon the pun, on board the sexual imagery train earlier, the train plunging into a tunnel is, we're going to move on. Note the conductor literally making a stand. He's stands up, confronts Sam I am, and says, not on a train, not in a tree, not in a car. Sam, let me be. Then he makes a really telling series of statements. I would not, could not in a box. I could not, would not with a fox. I will not eat them with a mouse. I will not eat them in a house. I will not eat them here or there. I will not eat them anywhere. I do not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Look at that second to last statement. I do not eat green eggs and ham. This is a claim of orthopraxy. Just as orthodoxy is the right belief, orthopraxy is the right action. Now, in an ideal world, everyone would understand and pursue the correct beliefs followed up by the correct practice. But when we're talking about matters of faith, especially matters of religion or culture, things that are not inherently universally shared beliefs, but are specific to an individual or group, especially a group, we have this idea of orthodoxy and orthopraxy. I guess the best example I could give is that the Roman Catholic Church, among many other beliefs, holds that contraception is sinful, that it is against their beliefs to use or promote artificial contraception to prevent pregnancy. And yet, in the United States, the number of Catholics who admit to using contraception at some point in their life is over 60%. The numbers varied based on the survey and when it was done, but it's been over 50% since they started doing this survey in the 1950s. Think about that. More than half the people claim that one thing is the right thing to do and admit to actually doing something else. If they disagreed with the belief for everyone, or disagreed that the belief was well-founded, they would change the orthodoxy, but instead, based on the later questions in the survey and my own explorations talking to people of different faiths, it seems to be this is a case where someone would rather admit that they're too weak to follow or too flawed or sinful to follow the letter of their beliefs than to change their practice. Catholicism isn't the only one. If you know Jews or Muslims who have strict dietary requirements, which are part of their religion but not part of their practice. If you know people who follow the keto diet but also love Doritos, we tend to make practical exceptions for things in our beliefs which conflict with our deeper desires in a way which we're not able to resolve. Oh my. So, for those of you who were, pardon the pun, on board the sexual imagery train earlier, the train plunging into a tunnel is, we're going to move on. Note the conductor literally making a stand. He's stands up, confronts Sam I Am, and says, "Not on a train, not in a tree, not in a car. Sam, let me be." Then he makes a really telling series of statements. I would not, could not in a box. I could not, would not with a fox. I will not eat them with a mouse. I will not eat them in a house. I will not eat them here or there. I will not eat them anywhere. I do not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I Am. Look at that second to last statement. I do not eat green eggs and ham. This is a claim of orthopraxy. Just as orthodoxy is the right belief, orthopraxy is the right action. Now, in an ideal world, everyone would understand and pursue the correct beliefs followed up by the correct practice. But when we're talking about matters of faith, especially matters of religion or culture, things that are not inherently universally shared beliefs, but are specific to an individual or group, especially a group, we have this idea of orthodoxy and orthopraxy. I guess the best example I could give is that the Roman Catholic Church, among many other beliefs, holds that contraception is sinful, that it is against their beliefs to use or promote artificial contraception to prevent pregnancy. And yet, in the United States, the number of Catholics who admit to using contraception at some point in their life is over 60%. The numbers varied based on the survey and when it was done, but it's been over 50% since they started doing this survey in the 1950s. Think about that. More than half the people claim that one thing is the right thing to do and admit to actually doing something else. If they disagreed with the belief for everyone, or disagreed that the belief was well-founded, they would change the orthodoxy. But instead, based on the later questions in the survey and my own explorations talking to people of different faiths, it seems to be this is a case where someone would rather admit that they're too weak to follow or too flawed or sinful to follow the letter of their beliefs than to change their practice. Catholicism isn't the only one. If you know Jews or Muslims who have strict dietary requirements, which are part of their religion but not part of their practice. If you know people who follow the keto diet but also love Doritos, we tend to make practical exceptions for things in our beliefs which conflict with our deeper desires in a way which we're not able to resolve. Now, in addition to teaching theory of knowledge and history and government, economics, and a bunch of other things, I've also taught and do teach English, specifically English literature and literary analysis. This panel, this 2-page spread, is an amazing panel for those looking for allegorical or symbolic interpretations. Um, we've plunged into darkness, the land of the unknown, where knowledge is uncertain and threats to our knowledge or threats to ourselves are present. We've left the light behind us, light representing both knowledge and safety and clarity. We also don't see the train engine. We've lost that sense of moving forward. The wheels are on the rails. We are still moving through the darkness, but we lack context. And Sam jumps on this. Sam I Am says, say in the dark, here in the dark. Would you, could you in the dark? I would not, could not in the dark. Hands up. It may be a combination of the illustration and the punctuation, but the conductor seems more hesitant here. And the Sam has moving away from reason and he's moving to intuition. He's struck by the idea that maybe this point of view shift, this contextual change, will lead to some change in belief on behalf of the conductor. So he uses the line, hey, say, in the dark, what about this? He is now following his intuition, proving that even in inquiry, there is more than one way of knowing. So the train emerges once again into the light, or specifically into the rain. Would you, could you in the rain, asked Sam I Am. Rain is interesting because water in many belief systems represents a change or barrier. The river Styx, which separates the land of the living from the land of the dead. The world sea, which surrounds the landmass of the primordial earth. The vault of the heavens in Christianity, the crystal spheres, which hold the infinite waters of heaven from falling down and drowning out the land. The water of baptism, the water of purification. So, although this seems just another conditional, it does hint at a faith-based way of knowing, and may be an attempt to tap into a religious or indigenous knowledge system. The conductor quickly fires back. I would not, could not in the rain, not in the dark, not on a train, not in a car, not in a tree. I do not like them, Sam, you see. Not in a house, not in a box, not with a mouse, not with a fox. I will not eat them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. The use of imagination here, he's basically saying, I'm able to picture all of these things. I have considered them. I am not dismissing you out of hand anymore. But I'm telling you, it's no good. I do not like them anywhere. So there's a couple ways to read what's going on here. Sam I Am, slump-shouldered, small mouth, small posture. You do not like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I Am. You could say the conductor is now winning his argument. He has defended his belief. You could say that Sam is experiencing doubt, that he has lost his faith, his intuitive assumption that since he loves green eggs and ham so much, surely the conductor must as well. he may be acknowledging the possibility here that his challenge to the conductor's statement, the conductor's belief, may be approaching knowledge. It can be uncomfortable. But sometimes it's only when you experience setback that you refrain, that you are reinvigorated in your inquiry. So let's see where they go from here. Poor conductor. Sam is revitalized. Could you, would you, with a goat? I would not, could not, with a goat. This is association. Sometimes beliefs are modified, or our willingness to believe changes in the group from the individual. And this is pretty clear to see throughout history. No individual says, hey, my sports team just won the championship sports ball game. Insert your sport here. I think I'll go flip over a stranger's car and set it on fire. That doesn't connect. And yet, the celebration in the streets of a city whose sports franchise has just won the big championship game often sees vandalism, rioting, what's referred to as mob psychology. And mob psychology is a real thing. The reason that the social sciences are the social sciences, and that they deal with large groups of people, is that you can't take one person and multiply their beliefs by 1,000 and get the beliefs and actions of 1,000 people. A group of 1,000 people is fundamentally different from the specific beliefs and actions of all of the 1,000 individual members. This is why members of certain societies, or religious groups, or ethnic groups, or belief systems, or political parties might seem extremist. And then you meet an individual from that group or society, or etc., and, well, they're reasonable, they're kind, they love their children, they're respectful, they're polite. What's up with that? Well, what's up with that is usually the mob psychology, or the association issue with knowledge. Okay, so we're moving into our end game here. Sam I Am asks, would you, could you on a boat? And again, we have the association with water, but more importantly, there's this transition from the rails to the boat. And again, the weird imagery, we're just going to skip. Feel free to giggle amongst yourselves. The conductor looks at this situation. He's literally up in the air. He is ungrounded. He is cut off from his certainty. Now, ungrounded assertions of knowledge or of belief are not the same thing as unfounded. Unfounded means there's nothing upon which to base them. Ungrounded means that the assertions have not been provided with a rational basis, or that there is an unclear association. They're very closely related. They're used almost interchangeably. But ultimately, I would say an ungrounded assertion is one which is not proven, or for which there's no clear support, whereas an unfounded one is one which has been explored and found to have no meaningful connection or no basis. So here we see the conductor becoming, I think, understandably more agitated. He does another variation on the categorical denial. I could not, would not on a boat. I will not with a goat. I will not eat them in the rain. I will not eat them on a train. Not in the dark, not in a tree, not in a car. You let me be. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I will not eat them in a house. Do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. Again, the strong emotion. Contrast this with Sam I Am, who is the picture of dispassionate tranquility, dispassionate, unriled by emotion. He is totally calm, tranquil, peaceful. Even as he's flying through the air and one of the green eggs is saying goodbye to his little platter, he's okay. The devout, the people firm in their belief, often feel a sense of peace from that knowledge. And again, the peacefulness, the tranquility of everyone except the conductor. I do not like green eggs and ham, he insists, even as he strikes the water. I do not like them, Sam I Am. Note that Sam here is wide-eyed. It's starting to strike him that the conductor might really seriously not like green eggs and ham. He's beginning to question his own certainty. He's had a little bits of doubt here, but he's going to make one more push, and, well, we'll see. Now, here is where Sam I Am's persistence of inquiry really pays off. The conductor finally says, Sam, if you will let me be, I will try them. You will see. This is engagement. He has agreed to make some active movement in the knowing process rather than just simply finding new ways to say no. And you see from his expression, he's beat down at this point. Even the hat is starting to fail. He looks hangdog. He says, "Okay, look, if I eat these, you'll see. You'll see that I don't like them, and then maybe you will leave me alone." The conductor's face really just says everything here. This is skepticism. Skepticism is a more formal doubt. I guess if I had to give a working definition of skepticism, is skepticism is procedural doubt. It is doubt with a level of thoroughness, of rigor and authority beyond emotion or intuition. Um, Skepticism isn't the uneasy feeling. It's not the, hey, does this smell good to you? Uh, Skepticism is the, I'm going to need strong evidence to change my position because I feel my position is well established. Skepticism, by the way, should be our default position to knowledge claims that go outside or contradict our existing frame of belief. Often we don't know something because there's a good reason not to know it, because it ain't so. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. Say, I like green eggs and ham. I do. I like them, Sam I Am. And I would eat them in a boat, and I would eat them with a goat. The conductor here has just gotten knowledge. That is justified true belief. The belief is that he likes green eggs and ham. He knows it's true because it corresponds with his experience. And it's justified because he, having considered all of the possible reasons not to like them, has been convinced regardless. Now, you'll notice his joy, his big smile, and the enthusiasm the exclamation points. I would eat them. I will eat them. Oh boy, this is called the shock of the new. Nothing is more annoying than when you ask your friend over and over again to listen to some music by a band you like, and they finally get around to doing it, and then they will not shut up about it. And everything is about that band, and oh my gosh, do you know their old albums? And oh, this is from the EP from 1989, but oh, it's a deep cut. Yeah, okay, yes, I know it. I introduced you to it. Shut up. We're about to see zealotry from the conductor. A zealot is someone who is moved to unreasonable or disrespectful levels by their enthusiasm of belief. The conductor continues his litany. And I will eat them in the rain, and in the dark, and on a train, and in a car, and in a tree. They are so good, you see. This is the convert's prayer. This is the enthusiastic embrace of belief that comes with someone who's not just new to a belief, but who has arrived at that belief from a previous counter position. C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Screwtape Letters, Chronicles of Narnia, among others, had been an atheist, and he converted to Christianity. And he spent the rest of his adult life actively campaigning to bring people to Christianity. And the primary reason for that was the shock of the new, the convert's prayer. He didn't just believe, he believed extra wide, extra strong. If my doubt, my lack of faith can be overcome, then surely anyone's can. And he was a extremely vocal crusader for his point of view. The conductor continues, so I will eat them in a box. I will eat them with a fox, and I will eat them in a house, and I will eat them with a mouse, and I will eat them here and there, and I will eat them anywhere. And here in our last panel, we see Sam I Am and the conductor united as knowers. They are two individual knowers sharing in that knowledge, making it communal knowledge. I do so like green eggs and ham. Thank you, Sam I Am. It's been my experience that people are not always thankful to have their beliefs changed. Your mileage may vary, but this is Dr. Seuss, so we have a happy ending. I've included here some useful vocabulary, and after the audio portion is done, you feel free to pause the video and just record this. Over the next several weeks, when you have free time in class, I'm going to ask you to find good definitions. A good definition being one that seems consistent with our studies, but that also uses language that you are comfortable with. Don't just write dictionary definitions, because that's just replacing a word you don't know with a bunch of other words that you don't know. But I'm going to ask you to record this useful vocabulary, and I'll make a couple notes as we go. Metacognition, which is a fancy way of saying thinking about thinking. Teleology, the telos of something. That will come in our studies tomorrow with Plato and a platypus. Epistemology, justification, we've already touched on. Reason, truth, fact, information. Truth, fact, and information are sometimes used interchangeably, but they have nuances, subtle shades of differentiation that will be important for us. Philosophy, phenomenology, Cartesian dualism. If you don't find a good definition for that one, don't sweat. We'll come up to it. Descartes' assertion. That's just a fancy way of saying the cogito ergo sum. Pascal's wager. Existentialism, theology, psychology, quantum mechanics, culture and cultural relativism, the objective and the subjective, sufficient condition, and finally, logical fallacies. You may find that you want to space these out in your text so that you have plenty of room to put definitions. Um, I sometimes like to just put the big list and then work the definitions wherever possible. Put the page number of your workbook wherever you fit that definition in, next to the term in the list. Um, I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you that these are terms that you're likely to see in your final, and that we will occasionally reference in class, so you should have a good grasp. That's going to bring us to the end of lesson 6. Um, I know it's been a deep dive today. I will be with you tomorrow for Plato and a Platypus Walk into a Bar. Have a good day.